So right now I'm working kind of on two projects. So one is a long-term project where I would try to understand kind of if consumers are better modeled by new behavioral approaches or make certain mistakes, how does this play out in markets? So what should we look for in markets? What kind of advertising behavior, pricing behavior, contracts or something like that should we see in markets if these models describe human behavior better than sort of the classic model that we have used for a long time in economics? That's almost a silly question. I mean, there's so many. Every behavioral economist was influenced by Kahneman and Tversky, I think, to some degree, which kind of took a lot of ideas that were around in psychology and popularized them to economists. So one particular idea, I guess, is reference-dependent preferences, so that sort of our happiness or our utility doesn't just depend on the absolute outcomes we get, like how healthy we are, what we can consume, but that it also depends on how good our consumption is relative to a given reference point. And losses to this reference point matter much more than gains. And so they really pushed this. And so clearly that influenced a bunch of my own work on reference-dependent preferences sort of in markets, although it was mediated, as almost every big idea, through other papers in the middle. For example, Kosegi-Rabin, who have a model where they endogenize what this reference point is. So we can actually understand what is the reference point to which people compare themselves, and which made it feasible to take these models and actually apply them to market environments. And as we've argued in our work, so this is joint work with Bota and Kosegi, that this might help us to explain why prices are less flexible in certain environments than one would expect. So there's many important or interesting research questions. One thing that I'm interested in, or that I think is an important question to answer, is kind of if people have wrong views of the world, or especially views with self-serving biases. So I like to believe that I'm great or smart or something like that. And over time I get feedback and evidence. How do I kind of keep my wrong view of the world in light of evidence? And how do I learn about other things? How does my wrong view of certain aspects of the world influence how I see other aspects of the world? I'm Paul Heidhues, professor of behavioral and competition economics.